Mythos Busters, investigating the mystery, monsters, and madness of Arkham Horror, the card game.
Hello and welcome to Mythos Busters episode 132. I am your host again. This is Nick. Once more, we are short Sean, as is obvious, but I have with me here tonight Scott. Hi, Scott.
Hi.
How are you doing?
I'm doing well. Also, Ian's not here.
Also, Ian's not here. Yes, yeah.
He got the vid.
Oh, I know. How scary.
Yeah, that sucks.
Good thing he's vaccinated, though, at least.
Yeah, and he's doing okay for anyone concerned. He's like, I'm sick, but you know.
Well, he also had a I think he's recovered because that was a little while. That was like shortly after our last episode recording that he was starting to feel down. But then I think he had a birthday party going on at some point
his
too.
Son's birthday.
Yeah, there was a confluence of bad things. So, yeah. Well, no, the birthday party's a good thing. What am I thinking? Oh my gosh, I saw Maxine's message in chat and my brain stopped working briefly. Glad to have you with us, Maxine, on the live chat. Yeah. So, like I said, this is episode 132. Scott and I will be taking it home tonight. We got a few different things. Tonight's topic is we're going to talk about the investigators. From the Edge of the Empire, the Edge of the Earth expansion.
I do it too. Yeah. I do it too.
Oh my god, I cannot stop. It's a real problem.
Yeah.
The investigators from the Edge of the Earth expansion. That's what we'll be discussing tonight. And yeah, we also got a little bit of news and all that. So we'll get there. But before we do any of that, quick reminder to everybody: Happy Pride Month, Scott. Happy Pride Month, man.
Happy Pride Month.
Thank you. And hopefully this will come out for before the end of the month. But anyone who's listening live and anyone who's listening before July 1st, make sure that you stop by Mythos merch to pick up any of the Mythos Busters the Pride themed Mythos Busters merch, including a couple of new items on there as well. And just a reminder that 100% of those proceeds go to the Trans Lifeline charity. So we're not going to see any of that money. That's all going to go to a great cause. So definitely head over there, check out those items, and pick something up for yourself and donate at the same time. I already talked to my wife, but I showed her a couple because we have the pants and the shoes this year are our new products, and I showed those to my wife, and she was like, "Yes, I'll take one of each." And I was like, "You know what? I'm going to get the Pride shoes too." So we're waiting on our.
We have Pride pants?
Yeah, they're like yoga pants, if I remember right. And I think we have, I don't know. Okay, so I haven't checked the site since back when Justin was pitching these items to us or telling us like, hey, these are what I'm looking at. Mm-hmm. But there's the yoga pants, the women's yoga pants that are, they have the black, like down to the thigh, and then their Pride logos after that. And then there's the men's version, which are just white with the Pride logos all the way up, and I'm not a men's yoga pants guy, but honestly it looked like just briefs that came with legs. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like just boy,
my, those are
it's quite a choice. So I mean, holy cow, kudos to anybody who buys those and owns those and wears those. That's awesome. Not my style, but I'm getting the shoes.
They're going to have to be our BusterCon uniform, right?
Yeah, right. Yeah. 100%.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so like I said, mythosmerch.com. Scott posted that in chat. Thank you, Scott. Swing over there before July 1st and check out those items. Also, go and watch our Iron Man streams. Iron Man was amazing, as always. We're a little ways away from it now, but it was, holy cow, was it a great time. And we've got Iron Man, and we've got a couple other streams up as well. Swing over to YouTube. I've been playing Spider-Man Miles Morales, so I apologize that I keep saying swing over. Go sashay over to YouTube and watch those VODs. They're really, really fun. And they're long, so maybe put them on in the background while you're working or something. I don't know.
Yeah, they're like 12. I think it's 12 hours, 13 hours.
It's between I think it's between 12 and 13 hours. The whole Iron Man. God, I miss Iron Man. Like,
it's so fun.
I wasn't even thinking about it. Yeah, it's the best. It is peak Arkham in my mind. But speaking of peak Arkham, Scott, have you been playing any Arkham lately?
A bit. I've been dabbling because I knew we were going to talk about the investigators, so I wanted to make sure I just got a couple more games in with them. And I'm going to save some of my comments for the chat, but Bob Jenkins is one that I initially thought he looked just okay.
Sure.
But man, he's really good. Like, and he is. I didn't think that he would be able to get as many clues as he does. Like, it's just insane. So, played a couple games with him. I'm still trying to figure out Lily, man. I've net decked. I have talked to people. I've tried my own stuff, and it's So, and I took. Who did I take through Innsmouth? I believe. Oh no, it was Luke, because we started talking about Iron Man for next year. Yeah, and I'm like, oh man, I need to refresh myself on Innsmouth, and man, Luke. There are some really janky tricks that you can do with Luke in Innsmouth. My favorite is like what's the racing, the car one?
Yeah, Highway to Hell. No. High Gear. Horror and High Gear.
Horror and High Gear, yeah. So yeah, my favorite one with Luke is Horror and High Gear and Barricade. Because if you get it in your opening hand, you can just set up the barricade and then you just, like, you can walk to the finish line because nothing, like, because everything spawns, like, away.
Behind you.
Yeah, at, like, the furthest left, or like the leftmost location or whatever. And you put barricade on this, because there's 3 that start in play. And so you start at the rightmost, they're at the leftmost, so you put barricade in the middle, and it's like, okay, cool. Well, I just, like, absolutely.
Game over.
Yeah, it neuters it. Like, it's ridiculous. But I mean, that's been Luke's thing, right? Like,
right. That's what he does.
Yeah, he finds, like, his gate box is just ridiculous. Like, I love it so much. And, like, almost every time I play Luke now, I always include a couple cards that can add charges to.
Oh yeah,
like those things. Like, because I just abuse the heck out of that gate box now. Like, it's, oh man, I think taking Luke through campaigns and scenarios and finding the weird stuff with, like, open gates and barricades and stuff like that, that brings me so much joy. So
there's a reason he's my favorite mystic, and in playing him, I forget half the time. Like, I'll build a deck and I'll be like, yeah, I got all this jank shit going on, and then I'm just like, in playing it, my brain just shuts off, and I just start playing regular mystic that has a free bamf. Yeah. And then, like, halfway through the scenario, I'm like, wait a minute, no! Like, there's so much more I could be doing! He's amazing. He's so good.
He's a really good solo, too, because you have 3 Bamf charges. Like, right, like, an enemy pops out and you can't deal with it, you're like, meh, I leave. Yeah. Like, it's...
you dumb bitch! Just drive away from him. Yeah, Luke's great.
Yeah, and then the scenario... Oh, God, I can never remember the names until we Iron Man it, and then I remember all the scenario names because I put so much stuff into it. But the one where you're island hopping and you're on the boat,
Devil Reef.
Yeah, so you go and open up a bunch of stuff, and then you can just use the gate box to just jump from island to island. Like, it's because that one because of the randomness and the setup and the keys and everything.
Oh, it can be killer. Yeah,
like, it can be. You can look at it and be like, I need 46 actions to get this done, you know what I mean? Or it could be like, oh, sweet, everything's lining up. I'll be done in 2 turns. Yeah. What have you been playing?
I've played a little bit of Arkham. I think I talked about this last episode. I don't really remember. It's been a while since I played it, but I've been running Amanda and Tommy through Innsmouth because I, of course, as soon as we got done with Iron Man this last time, I was like, I'm going to start prepping for Iron Man next year. And I immediately broke out Innsmouth. Yep. And I was like, who do I want to play? I want to play Tommy. So I built Tommy. And I went with I'm going with Sniper Tommy because I want him to avoid having to engage enemies. Or at least take them out, while they're engaged with someone else or whatever. And then if he does engage, he has all the soak, so he's fine. But so then to that route, I'm going kind of like an army of upgrades Tommy. So his weapon, he's obviously got Becky, but then I've got double Winchester, and he's running Hit Me, which is the Survivor Rogue event. Yeah, that pulls tokens. And then he's running, and then I pulled Experience to get Eat Lead, or I pulled In the Thick of It to get Eat Lead. And so that's just my thing, is like, just get one weapon out, doesn't matter if it's the Winchester or Becky, and then load it with upgrades and keep it full, And it's been working great so far. I've had very few turns where I haven't had a weapon out. But luckily with Tetsuo Mori and Prepared for the Worst, I have, options to pull stuff if I need to. So, yeah, he's a lot of fun. And then Amanda, because I didn't feel like I gave her a fair shake when she first came out. And she's one of the weird investigators that when I think about deck building for her, my brain kind of just turns into sludge and I pick up Rex or something. So, yeah, I'm like, I want to play. I don't want to think. Like, give me Daisy.
Cruise control. Yep.
Yep, exactly. So I played. I'm playing Amanda, and I'm running Dream Diary with her because in my head I was like, that makes total sense. But the timing's a little weird with Amanda because you replace the skill at the start of the investigation phase, but Dream Diary doesn't return Essence of the Dream to your hand until the start of your turn. So once you get it out, like once you get Dream Diary in hand, you have like an every other turn cycle where you're like, okay, this turn I can do it, next turn I have to have something else. So it didn't work out as cleanly as I'd hoped, but it's still useful. Like it's still 4 wild icons every other turn, which, I mean, that's reliable at the very least.
Yeah.
But they're doing okay. I think they succeeded Pit of Despair. They succeeded the Vanishing of Alina Harper, and they didn't fail. They resigned on In Too Deep, but I played it twice. So the first time I played it, I went zigzag through every location. And that's one for Iron Man. I'm like, we need a plan for this scenario in Iron Man. So I zigzagged and I hit every location and I got as many of the memories as I could, but then they both got knocked out right at the end. So I was like, I'm going to reset it and just see what it's like if I beeline it, if I just go straight for the end. And I did that and I was done before the first I think before the first agenda popped, but I didn't get any extra experience. I didn't get any, I was like, okay, now I've seen the two versions. Like we want to hit somewhere in between those. So I was kind of putting that in the back burner. And I'm going into Devil Reef next, but I haven't actually set it up yet. So, but yeah, I mean, they're great. Tommy's a lot of fun. I really like him. I really like that tank play style. And Amanda's interesting. She's fun too. It's just it's a fleeting fun. Yeah. I haven't really latched onto her as strongly as other people have.
I think In Too Deep is the scenario that I have the most funny stories coming from because, like, I mean, my usual pattern, and whoever I'm playing with, we usually just do this, is do the zigzag route. Go through each of them and stuff like that.
Yep.
And then you have this murder ball following you, right? Like, because all the enemy, like, you eventually like evade them and like run ahead, and then there's this giant thing. And one time, Mr. Trench and I were playing, and we were on the final row in the middle location because we were like just had to do one more thing before we went and finished the game because we were trying to do like the full memory playthrough. And the murder ball was just to our right, like the next one over and in the middle location. But there was barriers, like they couldn't get through. They were going to have to come around. So like we're all good. We draw our treacheries. and he draws the treachery that just shifts him to the right.
Oh, no.
And just right into the murder ball. And it was like just... Oh, like...
That's the worst.
And like we had used our cancels and everything like this. Right. It's like, well, bye.
Just... Yeah, there's nothing you can do at that point.
He's like, yeah, that's that. So, yeah, I love that scenario. It's so good.
One thing that I did, it's a great scenario, but one thing that I did realize in playing it was we should pack dynamite for Iron Man, because dynamite isn't blocked by barriers. So you could, in that like in that case, when they're next to you, when they're because those are connected locations, there's just barriers in the way. You can just huck dynamite over the barriers, or can the grenades go?
I was just going to ask. I
think they can go to other locations. I can't remember. I never play them, so I don't know.
I like putting them in Nathaniel's show because they don't take up a hand slot, but it's another like just a great weapon to do some extra damage, like when you need to.
Right. Yeah. They do not go to other locations. It has to be your location. The grenades. Yeah. So never mind. But dynamite, at least, if we have 2 investigators carrying dynamite, in that scenario, even if it's like one has 2 copies, one has 1 copy.
Yeah.
Or even if just one with 2 copies, but you're not as likely to see it when you need it in that case. Well, but
dynamite can go and stick to the plan, can it?
It can go on. You're right. It can go and stick to the plan, which is a great move. Yeah. So that's pretty much been all of my Arkham. Just as a quick reminder to our listeners, you can leave us a voicemail if you have anything that you want to bring up to the Mythos Busters. If you have a topic that you'd like us to discuss, small topics especially work great for here, for these segments. If we said something that was wrong, which I do very often, and you want to call us out on it, please give us a call at 203-493-MYTH. That's 203-493-6984. And if you're on mobile Facebook, you can just click the call button on our Facebook page. And if you don't want to leave a voicemail, you can record your lovely voice locally and then simply email it to us at mythosbusterspod@gmail.com. It's been a while since we've gotten one, but we love to play them on here and react to them and talk about them. And it's still in the notes. Sub-Zero Joe, thank you so much for your your patience. You sent us, and we've talked about it before, but you sent us quite the hefty message. And we want to tackle it, but we're stuck in Edge of the Earth for the foreseeable future, for the rest of our lives.
I think, like Sean and I were talking about it, Sub-Zero Joe, for everyone else who's interested. I think what we're going to do is we're going to do like a mini stream. And we can, because he brings up like just a ton of cards because he's doing like this combo. And we want to be like an audio format. I think is going to work way better with visual.
Oh, sure, yeah.
Parts there, too.
If you're able to see the cards when you're talking about it. Yeah, that makes sense.
And big news, by the way, just network popped in here. The Colorado Avalanche have won the Stanley Cup. So there you go.
Cool. Yeah. Great. Awesome. It's too bad that the whole team has to share one cup. Like, that's kind of rough. One team, one cup, I guess. But I don't know what I'm talking about. Scott, do you want to take care of our patron section?
Sure do. So thank you to our board members, Chris B, Chris H, Chris M, and Chris U, our conglomeration of Chris's. Morton, Jared, Ian, Kyle, Philip, Patrick, Abilio, Jesse, Chad, and Robert. Thank you guys so much for donating to us and keeping this thing. Like, it allows us to do so many things. It allowed us to stream Iron Man this year live, like BusterCon, like it just allows us to dream big, and we really appreciate it. And everyone, all our patrons, that goes to you as well. Special shout out to a random patron is Murray Shaw. Murray Shaw, thank you for your support.
Thank you, Murray.
And Nick, you mentioned this earlier, but mythosmerch.com, you can pick up some of our stuff. And if you want to send us pictures or you see it out in the wild, have you... Has anyone commented on yours?
Nope.
Like,
not yet.
Either. Yeah. One day. One day.
So, I don't know if I told this on the air, but I know I told Sean about it in the past. But I'm obviously involved in theater. I've talked about that, and I'm friends with. I'm pretty good friends with another member of theater, and he, for a while, he was dating a young man who apparently plays Arkham and listens to our podcast. So when my friend said, I should introduce you to my other friend, Nick, and then they were talking a little bit, they suddenly, like, he's like, like Nick from Mythos Busters. And there was this weird moment where I never actually met the guy, unfortunately, but there was this weird moment where I almost heard of someone who I didn't know from anywhere, haven't seen at any events, haven't talked to or interacted with on Discord, on Facebook, no connection, but but was a fan of our podcast. And I guess I don't know if he had merch or not, so I guess his story is really unrelated. But anyway, nobody's recognized my merch from anything, but I think that's due in large part to where I live, which is, bumfuck nowhere, middle of Minnesota.
Podunk, Minnesota.
Yeah.
There was some FFG news, Nick.
Yes, there was. So we got a new article called Methods of Investigation, and eagle-eyed readers would have recognized a few names on there. Unfortunately, it's just the names, but, it's something. But especially, not just the name Scott, but you definitely would have recognized Dubs. If you have listened to this podcast for more than this one episode, that name likely rings a bell. So this whole article is all about deck lists created by by content creators in the community. Scott being one of them. He posted his Dubs deck. I would ask you to describe the deck to us, Scott, but I think everybody knows what Dubs is at this point.
I mean, I've talked about it incessantly, so.
Exactly. Yeah. But it's a nice little question-answer article where they go over different things like what inspired the creation of the deck, what's your favorite scenario to play with this deck, if a new player wanted to give it a try, what advice would you have, that sort of thing. So a nice insight to Dubs, but we also got 2 more decks. There's also Alone with His Inheritance, which is a Preston deck created by Frank from Drawn to the Flame. And then there is also Righteous Justice is Served, which is a Zoe deck created by Ben of Miskatonic University Radio. So we got 2 other podcasts on there as well, with their hosts and sharing some of their favorite decks. So you should definitely give that a listen. I'll share the link here in chat for those of you who might have missed it, and it will be on our show notes as well.
Yeah.
But that is about it for news. How are the rules, Scott?
Oh boy, I have been out of touch. I have no rules updates.
Perfect. No rules!
Yeah.
So we'll move right on to the main Tupac, which is, of course, the Edge of the Earth player card review. I literally had to read the text off of the show notes to make sure that I didn't say Edge of the Empire. So we're talking about investigators. We've already kind of talked about some of these investigators, especially the ones that we were privy to before release, but now we've played with, theoretically, we played with all of them. And so we have some thoughts on them. We'll start with Daniela. I'll go ahead and read her if that's all right, Scott.
Yeah.
So Daniela Reyes is the mechanic. She is the Guardian Investigator for Edge of the Earth. She has 4 will, 1 intellect, 5 combat, 2 agility, entrepreneur traded. And her game text reads, reaction, after an enemy attacks you, accept an attack of opportunity you provoked. Even if that attack was canceled, either deal 1 damage to that enemy or automatically evade it. Elder Sign effect, +1. If you were attacked by an enemy this round, you automatically succeed instead. She has 8 health, 6 sanity, and her deck building is 30 cards. Guardian level 0, Survivor level 1 through 5, Neutral 0 to 5, and then up to 5 other level 0 Survivor cards. And then her signatures are the Wrench and the Mob Goons. I'll really quick go over the Wrench. 2 cost, asset, combat, wild icons, item tool, melee traded. Daniel Reyes deck only, takes up a hand slot. Free action, exhaust mechanics Wrench, choose an enemy at your location, that enemy attacks you. Action, fight. Use this ability only against an enemy that has attacked you since the end of your last turn. You +2 combat and deal +1 damage for this attack. And then Mob Goons are an enemy that 3/3/3, 3 fight, 3 health, 3 evade. Hunter, prey, Daniela Reyes only. This enemy attacks cannot be canceled. Damage to horror dealt by this enemy's attacks is treated as direct, deals 1 damage, 1 horror. Okay.
So much.
Yeah. So I have a lot of conflicting thoughts about the investigators in this box. But Daniela is one that I am 100% on board with. She's super strong. She's incredibly fun to play as a Guardian. But here's the thing. She's not really a Guardian. And the best part about that is that the Survivor... Because you're going to be pulling Survivor cards more often for her than you are Guardian. At least as you level up, you're going to be seeing more and more Survivor bleeding into her deck. And that is where... that Survivor... combo with the Guardian, that combos so well together, especially for what she's trying to do, which is take attacks, take damage. It's just such a good marriage between the themes of those 2 classes, and it fits so well with Daniela. She's so fun. Yeah, I have hardly anything negative to say about Daniela.
Well, I have something negative to say about
Oh,
it. But,
really?
But I'll save that because I agree. Like playing, so Sean played Daniela this year for Iron Man, and and Big Kahuna says it in the chat too. Playing Daniela has a bigger cognitive load than most other investigators.
Yeah,
I would agree, right? Like trying to figure out the math on what you can take, like as far as damage and like timing that with whatever else, the wrench and whatnot. There's a higher cognitive load. But yeah, she's pretty good. I would say okay, so the big quote unquote big negative I have against her, which I'm also totally fine with, is her solo is very difficult because
Yeah,
getting clues is just not
Yeah.
gonna happen often.
You're going to have to devote a lot of deck space to tricks.
Yes.
And that doesn't feel great when you have such a focused investigator ability like what Daniela has.
Yeah. And I mean, I'm also of the mind, like, I am totally okay that there are just some investigators that aren't great at solo, right? Like, I think every investigator is capable, but there's some that are much better than others. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, I have played her Daniela solo, and I have gotten clues and beat scenarios and stuff like that. But man, it is like pulling teeth. Like it's very difficult, and if you don't draw your clue tech and stuff like that, like just with that one intellect. But as soon as you add a second investigator to the game, like, and she can just be the guardian, right? Like the fighter, awesome. And
you don't play Daniela as flex. Like there's no other than flexing on the enemies, there's no flexing that Daniela can really do.
Yeah. And having her in Dream Eaters, where there's all the swarm enemies, it was awesome. Like, she was really good at taking care of a lot of small enemies. I'd say one of maybe the only a struggle, maybe, like, so I think of her with her ability, and the one thing I found is if you need a high damage output on a single target, that's where she struggles a bit, just because she doesn't get access to like the big banging cards from Guardian, right?
I can see that. But she can handle the enemies.
Yeah. Davy asks, easier or harder than Nathaniel Cho True Solo?
Ooh, that's a good question.
I think Cho's harder.
Yeah, because Survivor does add a number of tricks to getting clues. And that is very useful, and that's ultimately what you're talking. When you're talking about True Solo with her, you're really focusing on like what can we do to get clues. And at level 0, Guardian has 2. They have evidence and they have scene of the crime. I think that's it. And then with Survivor, at the very least, you can add in winging it. Well, you wouldn't do winging it because it's a test. You do look what I found, and maybe Mysterious Raven, I guess. Or the shovel? Shovel, probably.
Yeah, shovel's good. The Raven, what's her name? The cat that has the 3 kittens that come with it.
Oh, yeah, yep. She's one experience, but yeah, Miss Doyle is definitely someone that you can throw in there.
Yeah.
So I would agree that Nacho is probably the more difficult one, more frustrating one to play True Solo.
Yeah. And like, again, I don't think that's a negative against the character. It's just like when I go to play solo, I'm probably not going to take them because it's just right. But those investigators tend to do so much better in multiplayer games. So like okay, so we mentioned Dubs, and I'm going to mention it again, right? Like Ursula, fantastic solo, one of my favorites, if not my absolute favorite. But I would say that her value and stuff like that diminishes as you add a number of players to the game. Which is fine because, like, if you're adding 1 action to 3 actions, that's 33% more, right? Whereas 1 action to 12 actions of all the players, it's just less. And she has a 4 intellect, not a 5. Like, there's just things like that.
Sure. All right. I guess I can.
But with
I can see where
Daniela,
you're coming from.
I feel like there's the investigators that aren't great at solo are way better in multiplayer because they just work better in multiplayer. I don't know. That's just something I've noticed.
Yeah, I can see that. And then as far as her signatures go, like her wrench is just, I mean, it fuels her, you know, you can force an enemy to attack you. And it's not an opportunity attack when you do that. So you get to trigger her ability, which is great. And then you can respond by beating their ass back down. And then Mob Goons, they're not that terrible, right?
They're fine. They are
Yeah,
fine.
they're a basic enemy. The direct damage is it can be problematic, but it's not like it's a sucker punch. Like it's
Yeah.
coming. So yeah.
Well, and the thing is too, they only do 1-1,
Yeah.
and they're 3 combat. Like that is not hard. Like Danielle starts at 5, right? Like
yeah, you can naked test against them and feel good most of the time, unless you're on hard.
Her wrench. One thing I have found is in the campaigns I've played with her, the amount of times that I've actually, 1, seen her wrench, and 2, actually got it into play are so few and far between, and I do love it. I just find that I'm just, I don't know, bad luck or something. I feel like her real signature is survival knife, because
Yeah,
like
I
that
can see that.
just that or the what did Sean call them, the jangle bangles?
Sure. Yep. The survivor bangle of jinxes.
Yeah.
I can see that. Yeah. The thing with with these signatures, there's only one copy in your deck, and they're usually like, especially when they're really good like this and they really synergize with the character, it feels almost bad that you don't see them. You know what I mean? Like, it's not like it's Daisy's tote bag that you're like, oh well, I wish I had that out so I could get another tome and play. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah,
this is
yeah.
something that when it's out, you're like, woohoo! And it's like time to go crazy. So the fact that there's only one, I don't know, but at least she can take stuff that can fish it out.
Yeah.
And fishing, like putting cards into tutor this isn't going to feel bad because you're probably going to have other targets for those tutors as well. You're going to be running other items in Daniela. You know what I mean?
So one thing though is the mechanic for it is not a weapon, so you can't.
It's
fight
not.
it. But like prepared for the worst, can't.
Right,
fight it.
that doesn't,
Yeah.
but Backpack does, Tetsuo Mori does.
Yeah.
So you have options.
Despite the deck building, did we ever come up with a term for the switcheroo deck building where they start out one level but they actually level up into a different one? I feel like we had a funny name for it.
We did. I think switcheroo works. Sean, well, yeah, class conflict is what Sean labeled when you make the mistake of including leveled up Guardian in Daniela, as an example. But I guess that can carry over. The class conflict investigators, the identity crisis investigators, the ones that she's blue but really she's red, sort of thing. Any other thoughts on Daniela?
No, I think like my first game or two, I was a little afraid of taking so many hits with her.
Sure.
And I think it's just something you have to get over and just make sure you have the soak and just know that, I don't know, everything's going to be okay.
Right.
But survival life is amazing. Guard Dog, Tetsuo, like, yeah, there's the Bangle of Jinxes. Like, just amazing cards for her. Yeah.
And luckily, like, we have Guardian and Survivor both have a large selection of soak cards. So at least she's set up in that regard. But now let's move on to our old/new again, I guess, Norman Withers. Scott, do you want to read Norman?
Yeah. So Norman Withers Norman Withers is a seeker, Miskatonic traded, 4 willpower, 5 intellect, 2 combat, 1 agility. Play with the top card of your deck revealed. Once per round, you may play the top card of your deck as if it were in your hand at -1 resource cost. Forced after weakness is revealed while on top of your deck, draw it. Elder Sign effect is +X. You may swap the top card of your deck with a card in your hand. X is the resource cost of the top card of your deck. 6 health, 8 sanity. His deck building is 30 cards. Seeker cards level 0, Mystic cards level 1 to 5, Neutral cards 0 to 5, and up to 5 other Mystic cards at level 0. And then, of course, he has his book with him, the Livre de Bon, I assume.
Sure.
Yeah, the Hyperion Grimoire, 2 cost asset, 2 willpower icons, and a wild icon. Item, Relic, Tome, Norman Withers deck only. And then fast action, exhaust Livre de Bon. Swap the top card of your deck with a card in your hand. And another fast action, exhaust the book. Commit the top card of your deck to an eligible skill test performed by an investigator at your location. Takes up the hand slot. Lastly, his weakness, the Harbinger. It is a treachery weakness, omen, and end times revelation. Place this card on the top of your deck. While the Harbinger is revealed and on top of your deck, cards in your deck cannot be searched, drawn, or manipulated in any way except by the below ability. Double action, discard the Harbinger. This ability may be activated while the Harbinger is on top of your deck, as if it were in your threat area.
Okay.
So yeah.
I mean, we've had Norman for a while.
Yep.
So we know I have been, at best I've been cool on Norman. At worst I have been anti-Norman. Cuz yeah, it's just, and this is what this is kind of my general stance with the Edge of the Earth investigators in general. And like I said, with Daniela Guardian and Survivor, those two classes marry pretty well together. They blend pretty good, especially for what Daniela is doing. Norman is an interesting one because he goes from Seeker into Mystic, but his stats, and granted he has 4 will, and there are other Mystics that have 4 will, and that's great, and they're great, but his stats are so strong for Seeker. And the difference between a 4 will Mystic and a 5 will Mystic, you feel that difference more than I think you do between like a 4 combat and a 5 combat Guardian. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like Mystics feel that one difference in will.
And I think that's because like Mystics just like, I mean, they put all their eggs in one basket of will.
Right.
Usually,
Exactly.
right.
Exactly.
Yeah. And Big Kahuna brings up Luke has 4 will, and I totally agree. But there's times I'm playing Luke and I'm like, man, I wish he had 5.
Yeah.
Like, it
Totally.
It's just so significant. Norman does have the access though to the level 3 spells that give you +2 willpower, like shriveling level 3 and stuff like that. So I like that.
I mean, that's nice, but Norman isn't as bad as at least one other investigator in this box. But he is starting to run into the issue where the stats don't mesh as well, or the stat line, the way you would think to play, like you go, okay, so he's a Seeker that turns into a Mystic. But if you're including all the spell assets, it feels like there's going to be less of it feels like it's not going to play as well. I could be very wrong. I probably am very wrong. Sean loves Norman.
Yes.
Absolutely
it has from the
loves
beginning.
Norman. Yeah, Sean's been on the Norman bandwagon. And I've played a couple games with Norman and I just couldn't get him to click. And so I've just kind of not really tried him since then. Although I will say that when we brought our cursed deck lists and shared those, and I chose Norman as the investigator I was going to build a cursed deck for, I'm actually very intrigued to try that that deck that I built. That's actually Bless and Curse. So, I mean, it's very possible that I just haven't cracked the case with Norman yet, but he's just, I don't know.
I like Norman. I think he's strong. Like
Sure.
his ability is, if anyone played the Lord of the Rings LCG, he's Gandalf, and he looks like him too. Well, beard. And stuff like that.
Can you name the Magic the Gathering card that he is?
Oh,
because it's one of my favorite Magic cards.
No, but I know, as soon as you say it, I'm gonna know it. But
yeah, it's a blue creature. He is the Magus of the Future. That came out in the Future Sight set, and he was a 2-copy in a starter deck, so I bought 2 of those starter decks, so I had a full play set. Just because in Magic that's so strong, being able to cast the top spell of your deck, like look at it and be like, oh cool, like it's just, that was so strong, and so I love that build. But anyway, yeah, sorry, carry on.
I think he got better with his actual signatures.
Sure.
Like his book now is way better than Split the Angle. Like Split the Angle to me was usually a skill card. And the enemy he had as his weakness, I forget the name of it, but
the Hound. I don't remember what it was called, but yeah.
And it was just annoying because, like, I mean, he doesn't have the stats to natively deal with it, right? Like,
right.
And I find his weakness now, the Harbinger, is way easier. Like, it's just double action, get rid of it. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, it's, yeah. And I mean, other people can get rid of it for you, right? Because it can be activated on top of your deck.
True.
As if it were in your threat area. So someone else can deal with it for you. So, but like, Norman without his book and Norman with his book is like two different play experiences.
Oh, sure. I was just gonna say, do you tend to go spell assets, or do you tend to go spell events with Norman?
Usually events, I think.
I kind of feel like that's where the strength is, just because of the top deck.
I do like shriveling level 3, just because it puts him at a 6.
Sure.
But I also use the mystic stuff more for like controlling things, like wards and deny existences and
right.
all that
the things
stuff.
that don't necessarily rely on his will.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like I don't use what's the clue finding spell asset?
Rite of Seeking?
Rite of Seeking?
Clairvoyance? There's a bunch of them. Rite of Seeking, Clairvoyant. Okay.
Because he's got the 5.
Yeah, why would you?
Right?
Yeah. You wouldn't you would need to.
Yeah. So that leaves, like, it allows you to use that willpower for combat and other weird things. And then intellect, I mean, he's a seeker. So
right.
yeah. It does hurt that I think he loses out on clue volume. So like a lot of like right, because he doesn't get upgrade deduction and a bunch of other cards that allow you to hoover clues up.
Right. So then if you're not running those upgraded spells, then you're just kind of falling behind in how many you can get at once.
Yeah, which I mean, in a 1 to 2 player game, it's not necessarily make or break. But if you're the seeker for a 4-player team, that lack of clue volume can sometimes hurt a bit, depending on the makeup of the team. Like if you're the only one getting clues, that's one thing. But
right. Yeah, I think in that case, if you're playing a multiplayer game and you brought Norman Withers along and you're planning to be the lead cluer, I think you would take those up. I would plan to take those upgraded spells and then just build them like a mystic then, and go for as many will boosts as you can.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'd probably be the best way to do it.
Well, I think too, if you are in that multiplayer game, I've only played him 2-player or solo.
Sure.
But if you're playing in a 4-player game, you can then, like those spell slots that I had, shriveling or the mystic event that combines your willpower and your combat.
Read the sign. Spectral Razor.
Yes,
Omniblade.
thank you, Razor. Yeah. Though you can just get rid of them because you can have someone else deal with you, and so you can then, for your clue volume, then use your willpower and kind of like both hand it, where you're using intellect for some tests and will for others. So
remind me, does divination add will to intellect, or does it replace it?
Level 1, you use your will instead of intellect, and you get +1 skill value.
That's what it is. You just get a bonus earlier in lower in level. Okay. I was wondering if divination might be the way to go with him. Banjo Thulu says it's an optional replacement. Can he use int?
Yeah, you
divination?
may use willpower instead of int. Yeah.
Oh yeah, perfect. Yeah, no, I think that's it then. I think that the surprising nobody, the cards that come in the box with Norman work pretty good with Norman, or at least theoretically they do. That might be the spell, the clue asset that's just like almost an auto include for him. Yeah, interesting. All right, so next we've got.
You want to read the block of cheese?
I will read my kids. No, my kid's favorite is Colby Jack. Anyway, Monterey Jack. What a name. The archaeologist. He's our rogue investigator. He has 1 will, 4 intellect, 2 combat, 5 agility, Wayfarer traded. His game text reads, at reaction at the end of your turn, if you started this round 1 location away from your current location, either gain 1 resource or draw 1 card. If you started this round 2 or more locations away, do both instead. Elder Sign effect +1. If you started this round 1 or more locations away from your current location, gain 1 resource or draw 1 card. He has 8 health, 6 sanity, regular 30 cards, and he goes level 0 rogue into levels 1 through 5 seeker. And then his Signatures are the Trusty Bullwhip, which is a 2-cost asset, agility, wild icons, item, weapon, melee traded, fast, Monterey Jack deck only. Takes up a hand slot, action, fight. This attack uses agility instead of combat. If this attack succeeds, you may exhaust Trusty Bullwhip to either automatically evade the attacked enemy or deal +1 damage for this attack. And then Buried Secrets is his weakness. It's mystery traded revelation. Put it into play in your threat area. If your location can be investigated, you cannot move except by scenario card effects. Action, investigate. If you succeed, instead of discovering clues, discard Buried Secrets. If you fail, you may take 2 horror to shuffle it into your deck. Monterey Jack, surprising no one probably, is pretty powerful.
Yeah, I see Big Kahuna saying he found Monty to be underwhelming. I did at first.
Sure.
And then I felt like once I kind of used him enough and figured out the flow of him, especially in the deck building, he got a lot better.
Sure.
I think he is really great solo because he's very similar to Ursula, where you've got, the intellect and the agility. So, and you just want to go.
Yeah.
One thing that the way I see Monterey Jack and like someone like Ursula is, if I think of Arkham, I'm going to go all click economy on you here, so I apologize. But like, you know how in Netrunner, the runner has 4 actions or 4 clicks, and then the corp has 3, but they draw at the start of their turn? So essentially they have 4 clicks, but one of them must be a card
one
draw,
spoken
right?
for. Yep.
So when I think of Ursula, it's like, okay, I have 3 actions, but it will be 4 actions. And Monty has 3 actions, but essentially he gets a 4th and a 5th. But those must be a card or a resource.
Right.
And so I see that as a similarity between the two. And trying to maximize the bonus he gives you. Like, I want to have a lot of low-cost cards, events, and skills, like stuff that I'm drawing extra each turn. So I want to be able to turn those cards into effect, right? Like, I want to get clues and kill enemies and do the scenario thing, right? So when I build him, I'm always very mindful that I'm going to be drawing a lot. And that I usually tend to go hard into skills. Especially solo.
Yeah, I've played him for a few scenarios. I definitely went heavy on, not heavy, but the rogue side I went more assets, and the seeker side I tended to do more events and skills. But there's also a lot of good level 0 rogue events now too. But that's just kind of the way that he ended up being built. Primarily for that same reason, like the whole, you want to be able to use what's in your hand whether you have resources for it or not, and so I did a lot of skills. Also, I did something a little cheeky with him. I went, because he's drawing so many cards, theoretically, I went with, what's it called? Segments of Onyx.
Oh, yeah, yep.
And it wasn't as consistent as I wanted it to be, but when it did get out, holy cow, like, I mean, it worked. It was pretty fun. Seeker is so powerful, and Rogue has gotten so powerful in the last few campaigns, and he's got a good stat line. His weapon, if you get it out, is gonna give you double use for your agility, which is amazing. He's got so much going for him right out of the box, and that's even if you don't include the absolutely stellar Rogue Seeker cards that came in Edge of the Earth, like Janae Beauregard, like Aeon Chart. So he's just great. He's just good. I will agree that probably stronger solo. Just in general, but
I was ever so slightly concerned because Ian played Monty in Iron Man, and he was going to be like the main Kluver of that campaign.
That side of it,
of that team, and I was a bit concerned about volume of clues again, as for a 4-player game, as Monty being the primary cluer. But honestly, we didn't have trouble.
No, he did great.
Yeah, he pulled through. That's the only time I've done like 4-player with Monty. Everything else has been solo or 2. Yeah, solo, I think he's fantastic. The one willpower is a little dangerous, but it's just...
Yeah, but it's not a danger that we haven't seen already.
No, exactly. And it's just, you have to be aware of it, right? Like,
Yeah.
it's... And you have to plan for it. I usually throw in 2 say your prayers.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Because, I mean, 2 grasping hands and you're dead, right?
Yeah.
So the first one brings you down to desperate level, and then you can pass the second one. So there you go.
Yep. And that campaign too, where Ian played Monty, he definitely did the bulk of the clue getting. But I played Joe, and Joe got some clues here and there too. Yep. We were the Fedora brothers in that campaign. So, but yeah, no, Monty is totally like he's got the power to be the cluever in a team. Little lacking on the enemy management side of it, but that's fine.
He can evade what he needs. Like, he can get away from stuff, right? And leave it for the person who's doing the enemy stuff. So,
do you remember the specific interaction that came up during Iron Man where we thought the game was broken because buried secrets came up while Monty was at a certain location? Do you remember what location that was?
It was because there was no clues on the location. And so the way that Buried Secrets is written, instead of discovering clues, but if there's no clues there to discover, you're not discovering clues.
Right.
So you can't do instead. But I think it's been clarified. I'm not sure if it's in the FAQ or Maxine has talked about it or something. But basically, just treat it as if you can. Like, I mean, because otherwise you're to
done.
Try and
like,
fail. Like,
that's
or you
the
don't
game.
move.
Yeah.
So I mean, it doesn't function quite correctly or something like that. But
right.
That to me is like spirit of the law instead of letter of the law.
Yes, yeah, totally.
Because one, like, there's 2 options to play this. One breaks the game and locks you out of playing, and the other one makes sense. So maybe go with the makes sense one.
Funny. I just remember that coming up. I also don't remember if Ian ever played the trusty bullwhip. He might have, but I don't think he needed to. Oh, really?
No,
okay.
I think maybe once.
Yeah, because you were Zoe in that one.
Yeah.
So he did not need that bullwhip at all.
Nope.
But it's a weapon that action fight, use agility instead, and you can either evade or deal extra damage. Like, it's a great weapon.
Yeah.
Absolutely, and it's fast.
Yeah.
Super good weapon. I haven't played much with him since I tried him for the first time. Just because I kind of look at it and I'm like, yeah, I get it. Seeker's great, Rogue's good. I get it. You know what I mean? Like, there's nothing new for me to discover with him, at least at this point. So,
yeah, no, he's awesome, and his weakness isn't that bad. Like,
no, not really.
Like, depends. You have to be conscious of where you're ending your turn, I think. Like, just in the back of your mind, right? Like, if I draw Buried Secrets now, how am I going to deal with this? But it's essentially a single action, right?
Exactly, yeah.
Investigate, pass. Yeah. It does suck to have to use the 2 horror, and then it gets shuffled back into your deck.
Yeah, that's not fun.
No. Especially when you only have
great.
6 sanity. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, you definitely want to make sure you bring logical reasoning if you're playing scenarios that have a lot of horror on the treachery side, and then if you're struggling with high shroud locations or whatever. So, but it's 5 int or 4 int rather. Like, he's well positioned to be able to handle most locations.
You know what? In Iron Man, Ian actually passed a willpower test once.
He did.
With him, yeah. And there was much jubilation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We all said it couldn't be done, but leave it to Ian. I also remember him absolutely hating on agility that campaign, but whatever.
Yeah. Life finds a way. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Lily Chen. Oh man, this is going to be a lot of reading because she has so many cards.
Oh my god. Well, we can tag team it if you want.
Okay, sure. So Lily Chen, the martial artist, she's Mystic Investigator, 3 willpower, 2 intellect, 4 combat, 3 agility, chosen and warden. You begin the game with each discipline in your deck in play, unbroken side face up. Elder Sign effect +2. After this test flips, flip a broken discipline you control to its unbroken side. And she's 7/7 for health and sanity. Dex size 30. She starts off as a mystic and upgrades into Guardian, level 1 to 5. And then, obviously, 5 other Guardian level 0 cards. And then she has a whole bunch of disciplines.
The first one is the Alignment of Spirit. These are all null costed. They all are double-sided with an unbroken and broken side. They're all Lily Chen deck only permanent. Alignment of Spirit is you get +1 willpower on its unbroken side. Action, take 1 direct damage to heal 3 horror, or take 1 direct horror to heal 3 damage. Flip this asset over. And then the broken side is reaction. After the round ends, if you took no damage or horror this round, flip this asset over to its unbroken side.
Questions of Thought is Lily Chen deck only permanent. You get +1 intellect. If you have fewer than 5 cards in your hand, draw cards up until there are 5 cards in your hand. Flip this asset over. And then the broken side, it is reaction after the round ends. If your hand did not have 2 or more cards in it at any point this round, flip this asset over to its unbroken side.
And then we have Prescience of Fate, which is the +1 combat. Action, you get +5 skill value for the next skill test you perform this turn. After that skill test ends, flip this asset over. This action does not provoke attacks of opportunity. And then broken side, reaction. After the round ends, if you performed no skill tests this round, flip this asset over to its unbroken side. Yeah, that's rough.
That one hurts. And then discipline, balance of body is the agility one. So +1 agility, unbroken. Action, 1 at a time. Take up to 3 different fight or evade actions. Flip this asset over. This action does not provoke attacks of opportunity. And then the broken side is reaction after the round ends. If no enemies were at the same location as you at any point this round, flip this asset over to its unbroken side.
And then finally we have Burden of Destiny, which is her weakness. She gets multiples of these based on the number of disciplines you have in your deck, but this is a flaw traded weakness. Revelation, you must either choose one. Flip a discipline you control to its broken side. It cannot flip back this round, or take 1 damage and 1 horror.
What is your feeling on Lily?
I really, really like her theme. She's been one of my favorite investigators since I first played her in Eldritch Horror, and I really like her translation in Arkham.
Mm-hmm.
The transition from level 0 Mystic to level 1 through 5 Guardian has got to be one of the most difficult transitions between all of these investigators that we have in this box. Like, I think that, like I said, Norman is I think he's fine, but it's difficult. That transition is difficult for me to do with Norman.
Yeah.
Lily is like, I need to think about that transition, and this is probably what I got to do with everybody, but I need to think about that transition immediately from the minute I'm starting to build a deck for her.
Mm-hmm.
The first time that I built her, I went spell assets, and then I took the willpower boost. But then as I'm upgrading the deck, I'm like, why did I do that? I neutered everything I could do later. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So I had to tear it all down and re-go. What are your thoughts on Lily in general?
I feel like she is a lot of work, like you said, like the switch over. She's really fun, but it's kind of one of those things. I'm like, is the juice worth the squeeze? Like with all the disciplines and everything, like. Yeah. Once you have 2 or 3 disciplines, you have a lot of options, but starting out a campaign, you have 1.
Right.
I'm a little bit iffy on that. I do like how, I love the design of it, though, with all the disciplines. I wish that the experience levels were lower for when she gets disciplines.
Yeah, 15. So you're going to see 2, maybe 3 in a campaign. Most likely 2.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, you're going to see 3 maybe. Yeah, you're going to see 3. Sorry, because you start with 1.
Yeah, and if you want to play her standalone and you want to have all 4 disciplines out, which, I mean, I guess if you're putting that much XP into your deck, you'll have a bunch more weaknesses, but you also have every discipline, but then you also get double hit for weaknesses because she gets one of hers and the random ones for the XP for the standalone, right? Like, so your deck is like half weaknesses.
Yeah, and her deck size doesn't go up. So you're and her signatures aren't in her deck. So you're getting extra weaknesses. You know what I mean? Like you're more likely to draw those weaknesses than you would be if her signatures were shuffled into her deck. So that also feels weird. Luckily, her weaknesses aren't terrible. Burden of Destiny isn't awful, but I mean, if you got 4 of them in your deck or 3 of them in your deck and you're drawing the third one late game, it can be pretty bad. Okay, so let's talk about Lily's disciplines.
I have a favorite one.
Yeah, which one is that? I do too. Which one is yours?
Okay, well, if I'm playing a normal deck, I like the combat one, just to bring her combat 5.
Yep.
It is a hard one to flip back, though, because you have to take no tests in a round.
Yes.
So the encounter deck can just throw a test at you, and you're like, well, guess that's not coming back.
Mm-hmm.
But my favorite one for jank is the agility one, the balance ability.
Yes!
Yeah, because you combo that ability with level 4 sledgehammer, and for one... And for one action, you're taking 3 tests that are swinging for 6 damage. Is it plus 5 or plus 6? It's 6 damage each.
Yeah.
Because it's plus 5 plus 5. Yep. So in one action, you're doing 18 damage, which is just like. And I just imagine her like just holding on the sledgehammer and just spinning around on her heels. You know what I mean? And just like.
Helicopter blading. I mean, that's insane from a numbers perspective. The way I went with it was doing the agility one and then doing butterfly swords level 5. So you take the butterfly swords fight action 3 times in a row, and it's so you do a combat test, then you do an agility test, and then you do a combat test, then you do an agility test, and then you do a combat, like you do 6 tests, and then at the end you exhaust it, but you're only getting, I mean, that's only what, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 damage. So it's far less on the damage, but boy, are you pulling a lot of tokens.
Yeah, and this is kind of like this, like the way we're talking, right? Is just it's what Lily is to me, where it's like fun instances.
Yeah.
But overall, like I don't know, when those instances happen, I'm having a great time. But with some of these disciplines, to get them flipped back over is really annoying.
Yeah. The combat one is unique. I think the combat one is the worst for trying to flip back over. But I think the what do you call it? The intellect one. That one actively makes it so hard for you to like all the other ones using the ability doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to be difficult to flip it back over. You know what I mean? Like, but the int one is draw cards up to 5, and then now I got to get down to 1. Like now I have to get rid of 4 of these cards. Yeah. So you're going to be out that int for at least a round, more than likely. Yeah. The only saving grace to these is that having them broken it's not detrimental to you. Yeah. You know what I mean? That's the only saving grace.
The int one, I basically use it as a card draw mechanic. Like, I'm not doing it for the intellect boost, right? Like, it's... Yeah, so it being broken until I get low, then it flips back over and I can draw again. Like... Yeah. It's fine. Gnarls Apprentice in chat says, don't the actions have to all be different? Correct.
Well, then there you go.
Yeah, but I have played this deck where I had Bandolier, so I could have 2 upgraded sledgehammers. And it was literally like helicoptering. So, yeah, it was like the triple action on a different card, and then the single action one where it's just +1/+1. But
that's amazing.
Yeah.
I remember another element to why my Lily deck felt the one and only time I played her, why it felt underwhelming. And that was because of a mystic asset that seemed like it was made for Lily. Yeah. The Dragon Pole. And that was because I was like, why did I go spell asset heavy? That doesn't sound... But that was why, because I wanted Dragon Pole to work. And I was like, this isn't... Like, this doesn't... It's not great. It's not amazing for Lily, just in general. Like, there are better options for getting that damage output. And B, like, it forces you to include spell assets, which she is not in a great place to do.
Mm-hmm.
And even if you put all of your eggs in the spell asset basket, well, don't say that 5 times fast.
Yeah.
Then you're just going to be hurting upgrading into Guardian. So.
Yeah. Do you know who Dragon Pole really works well in? Akachi.
Akachi, yes. Yeah, that was who I did. Yeah, because then I did an Akachi deck with Dragon Pole, and I was like, okay, I get it.
Yeah.
I still upgraded out of it for double sign magic, but it was still fun.
You're like, because you're gonna fill those arcane slots because Akachi gives you bonuses for those arcane slots, and so this is just on top of that. And she starts off at 3 attack, I think, 3 combat.
Yeah, she's a 3 combat. Yeah.
Yeah. So like it. Yeah. This is. I love this. I love Dragon Pole and Akachi, but that's an aside. So yeah, Lily, like, and again, so Dragon Pole, which, like you said, feels like it should be like essentially her signature weapon or whatever. It's one of those like juice for the squeeze kind of thing. Like there's a lot of squeezing going on when I'm trying to balance all the disciplines and stuff like that, and then now spell assets, and then the Dragon Pole, and I think Lily is fine. She just she doesn't blow me away. So
she's I would put her, like, looking at the effectiveness, I guess we could say, of each investigator in this box, I would probably put her at the bottom. But that's not me saying that I don't. But that's just because you have to work so much harder to get her chugging along. Whereas everyone else feels like they can hit the ground running better. And, so I don't know. That was just from my one experience with her. But I still really like her. I want to play her again. I want to, approach how I built the deck differently, not fall down the Dragon Pole rabbit hole. Say that 5 times fast. It's just, I would say, compared to Monterey, Norman, Bob, Daniela, like...
Yeah, no, I was just looking over the list. I'm like, yeah, I kind of agree. Like, someone has to come last at the Olympics, right? Like, they're...
Sure.
And, yeah, I feel like she's... But I also know, saying this, like, there are tons of people who love Lily. Like, that...
Yeah.
Like, like, they've been waiting years for her to hit the game because of her history in the other Arkham games. And, yeah, but...
she's fun. Like,
yeah,
the discipline it's a unique thing. Like, it's fun. We haven't seen anything like that other than with Parallel Roland, and his wasn't quite the same. His was more limiting. Like his stuff. His literally feels like you're breaking through the limiters, which is kind of cool. But yeah, she's just unique. But yeah, and like I said earlier, like, adding the extra weaknesses but not adding in extra SIGs to balance them out into your deck means you're going to be drawing them more often. I don't know.
Yeah.
I want to play her again, though. I want to give her another try and see how it goes.
All right. Bob Jenkins.
Bobby boy. Who is it?
Go ahead.
Bob Jenkins, the salesman, is our survivor investigator. He has 2 will, 4 int, 3 combat, 3 agility, entrepreneur traded. This game text reads, at any time, an investigator at your location may reveal to you the item assets in their hand. You may take an additional action during your turn, which can only be used to play an item asset from the hand of an investigator at your location, under their control. Both investigators may spend resources to pay its cost. Elder Sign effect, +1 for each item asset you control. 6 health, 8 sanity. Starts at level 0 survivor, upgrades into rogue, levels 1 through 5. His signature is Shrewd Dealings. It's a 2 resource cost asset. Int, wild for icons, talent traded, Bob Jenkins deck only. Game text reads, reduce the cost of each item asset you play by 1. Reaction, when you play an item asset, play it under the control of any investigator at your location. And then his signature weakness, Greed. It is flaw traded. Reaction, take 1 horror if you have, then there's 3 bullet points. 10 or fewer resources. Take 1 horror. Then if you have... No, I'm sorry. Take 1 horror. Period. Full stop. If you have 10 or fewer resources, take an additional horror. 5 or fewer resources, take an additional horror. 0 resources, take an additional horror. Wow. Okay. So first off, I was in very much the same boat as you, Scott, where I was like, Bob seems fine. Like, solo, probably not great. And I even said this on the cast. I was like, solo, he's probably not great. Team play, he's probably phenomenal, But he has proven, as multiple people have shown, to be a very strong investigator, regardless of player count, regardless of team size, regardless of his role in the team. He just does Arkham. Like, he just straight up, I just do Arkham, and I do it well.
Yeah, he surprised me, because I saw him and I was like, of course, this is totally a survivor ability, right? Like, survivors get all the weird stuff, right? That doesn't really fit into the other 4 classes. And I thought, like, oh yeah, okay, that's kind of neat. Like, it's just putting out an item asset, and it seemed really multiplayer driven to me, obviously, because you know. But then I tried him solo, and I was like, wow, actually, he does quite well. And the fact that you know, he gets an extra action to put stuff down, like in solo, when your actions are taxed so harshly, right? Like, taking a setup turn is a significant downside in solo.
Yes.
And he basically allows you to set up as you go, or you know, you take 2 setup actions and one of them is playing down an asset, and then you have still 2 more actions left to investigate or start going. Yeah, I have loved playing Bob. It's fantastic. His weakness is a doozy, though. It hurts, especially like if you're, I mean, I don't think I've ever been hit by the 4 horror, but I've definitely.
And the fact that 4 is on there, like, that's a threat. That's a thing that can happen. Ugh, half of it in one go, no recourse, no way around it. Like,
and he doesn't even have access to deny existence.
Or like, you either need soak or you need to have the money.
Yeah,
and like 11 resources to just take 1 horror from that card. Having 11 on hand. Yeah. It's not impossible.
When your whole thing is playing item assets, right? Like, you are meant
to. But luckily Shrewd Dealings exists. Like, his signature helps with that. Schaffner's catalog helps a lot with that. So, and I just realized Shrewd Dealings lets you play. Can you use Shrewd Dealings to play another investigator's asset under the control of any investigator?
I believe so.
Yeah, because your action is you're playing the item asset.
Correct.
But Banjo-Thulu is saying no.
So you may take an additional action during your turn, which can only be used to play. So the action, you are playing an item asset from the hand of an investigator at your location under their control. And then Shrewd Dealings. No.
Not necessarily a SIG. Yeah, I just meant assets in general.
Yeah, you can, play stuff around. Yep.
And you don't need to ask.
Yeah.
Like, you don't have to ask if it's okay. You can just do it.
Yeah.
But they have to show you what's in their hand, I guess. But
so, just griefing. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, there you go. And he has access to Rogue, so he can get some good grief going.
Yeah.
I want Bob the, not a salesman, Bob the snake oil salesman.
Yeah.
You know, I want that deck who's taking the flamethrower from Zoe and giving it to Daisy.
Wendy, yeah. Here, child.
Yes. Play with fire.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah. So one thing I do want to mention too, because I think we mentioned this when he was spoiled or something. Anyways, so additional actions there's a very specific rule around them.
Right.
That if whatever you are doing as an action can use up an additional action, it must use the additional action first, not a regular one. So the first time you play an asset that turn, so you can't play Schaffner's catalog and then second action use Schaffner's to pay for someone else's thing. Like, you used your special action just playing your own asset, your own item. So you just got to be careful about that with the timing.
Yeah, but like that's a small price to pay for the power that Bob gives you.
The number one Nick in chat says even better for your griefing there is like play an old key ring out, bumping out a flamethrower. But you know what? That doesn't work now because when we had the rules update to hand slots and stuff when it was for Joe. No, is it Joe? Yeah. With his guns, and you can have extra tools or whatever. Basically, as soon as something enters your play area, so like, you play a third hand slot thing, You then choose of those. You then have to discard down.
Oh, boo.
Yeah. So, yeah, that's
I wanted to kick out your Cyclopean hammer with a flashlight.
yeah.
Or with a blackjack.
Yeah. So yeah, like when you go to play something down, like we just like chuck the card off and then replace it. But what actually happens is for a split second, you have 3 hand slots full, and then you have to discard down.
Get down
to 2. So.
Yeah. Oh well. Yeah, he's super good. And the thing is, like, you look at it and you're like, okay, so he has survivor access and he has rogue access. He's got high int, but can he capitalize on that int with those 2 classes? But like items, like lockpicks you got for the rogue side of it. You've got lanterns and gravedigger shovels. Oh my god, yeah, Mariner's Compass. Yep. Like there's so many good items, especially in Survivor, but Rogue has a pretty good selection as well. That you're not gonna be hurting to do everything, even in solo Bob, which is where I assume that he would have a bit of a weakness, but no, it turns out he's great. Do you find yourself including cards like leveled up Hot Streak or Payday or anything like that? A whole lot.
I like Easy Mark in him.
Yeah, sure. Well, even though that takes up 3 card spaces.
Yeah, but it what do you call it? It cantrips, right?
Cantrips, sure. Yeah. Okay.
I like Payday. Payday's cute, and the fact.
I mean, you're getting 4.
Yeah,
so.
like you. Yeah, I mean that is the resource card that I usually take with him.
Sure.
The Hot Streaks, no. I feel like I use Payday as the resource. Yeah.
Sure. So what you're saying is his weakness doesn't scare you enough to force you to spend 3 on Hot Streak or whatever the high end Hot Streak is.
Yeah, no, not really. Because I mean, you can just use Chair's Keepsake, Teddy Bear.
Oh yeah.
Like because you have an extra action to play stuff out, like that, to play out Soak, essentially gives them fast. If you want to think of it that way, right? Because you still have your 3 things. His weakness is a bit scary, but it's not so scary that I think I need to keep myself at 10 resources.
Tech that hard. Yeah.
So I just make sure I have some horror. So he's got 8 sanity, so he's not terrible, but I mean 3 horror is also nothing to scoff at. So
right. Oh, go ahead.
I was gonna say I've really been enjoying him solo, and that int is just awesome because he can get clues. I would, as awesome as he is in multiplayer, so you can use his ability and stuff like that, I would argue that he cannot be the primary cluever. Like he doesn't have the clue volume, but he is a very good I'll grab that one clue or that one over there, right? Like you let the clue vacuumer go do the big stuff, and if they have to leave one clue behind because it's way more efficient to move or whatever, then he's good.
Although Rogue does have a couple of good level 0 options for getting multiple clues, but I would agree that for the consistency's sake, you probably don't want him as your main cluer.
Yeah.
No, he's great.
I really like the is it Rogue? The time one where you can put actions away. And then it's not borrowed time. Is it borrowed time? It's one of the ones with clocks on it.
You literally store clicks.
Yes. Yes.
It is borrowed time. Yes, the 3 experience exceptional one. Yeah.
I like that because sometimes because you have this extra action, sometimes you're just like the 4th action of the turn. You're like, it's not really something super effective. And it's I'm okay just using 3 actions this turn. So I'm just going to put one away for, later days.
Yeah.
And then eventually, next thing you know, you have a 7 action turn, you Payday. Yeah.
Right. Who do you take as an ally for Bob?
Ooh, who do I take? I usually take LeBron.
Oh, yeah, Madame Love Ranch.
Yeah. Because she's got good soak, she's cheap, and also she... saves you from going down to 0 resources because you can just exhaust her to gain 1, which is build around for his weakness.
Yeah, okay. I see that.
Because I never want to be at 0, right? Like that.
Right.
It's easy just to get to 1, and
Yeah.
she does that essentially fast. So, yeah.
That makes sense. I was looking at his stat line and looking at what he can take for the classes, and I was like, gosh, what is his go-to? And I always forget of Love Ranch, but yeah, she's a great include for him, actually.
Yeah.
And then the card draw too, if you play all your items and you have nothing left in hand.
Yep, exactly. Yeah, he's much more. He just surprised me because I thought he was going to be just okay, but I have really loved playing Bob. So
yeah,
and the thing too is like I don't think there's anything, especially solo. Like I'm finding like it's not anything crazy. I'm just playing fundamental Arkham, right? Like putting item assets I need into play, getting clues, moving to locations. It's nothing splashy. It's just normal Arkham done slightly more efficiently.
Yeah, and that's what I was gonna say. Like his stat line is so just like vanilla investigator stat line. Like he's got a peak in int, but it's not a high peak. Like it's just a point above average.
Yep.
So like he's just good at Arkham.
Yep.
And turns out that's what we're all playing. So
yeah, it turns out being good at Arkham makes him good at Arkham.
Yeah. So if you had to.
Yeah.
And you have to, because I'm asking you to.
Yeah.
If you had to arrange the investigators by most, I don't want to use the term powerful.
Yeah.
Let's go with most productive to least productive. How would you do that?
I think Monterey might be the most. It's Monterey or Daniela.
You think both of them are more productive than Bob? Because I almost want to put Bob at top.
I don't know. It's so hard though, like because comparing, especially like what is productive, I guess, right? Like
what is productive?
Because Daniela is really good at like keeping the field empty so other people can do things, right? Like that's her whole job. Bob's good at getting clues, but so is Norman. But Norman can't really deal with enemies usually.
Right.
Monterey is very productive. Yeah, maybe it's Monterey.
Sure. Okay.
Yeah, because he's got the agility to get out of dodge. He's drawing extra cards or getting extra resources.
Yeah.
And he's getting clues. And I think it might be. I think it has.
So
to be
then,
Monterey.
who's in second place between Bob and Daniela?
I
agree.
God, this is hard. I think it would have to be Bob, for the sole reason that Danielle is killing enemies, Bob is getting clues, but Bob also can like help out other people with their setup. Like he has that extra action, which to me is just productive. So.
Bob can kill enemies as well because he has access to some okay level 0 survivor weapons, but also access to the leveled up rogue weapons, which some of them are pretty good.
Yep.
And then it must go Daniela, Norman, Lily.
Yeah, probably. If forced. Yeah, I think that top 3 though. That's a hard.
Yeah, and they can swap too, like depending on scenario, depending on the team makeup. Once you start to take other variables into play, those 3 can all kind of trade places a little bit. But I would generally agree with that assessment. Monterey, Bob, Daniela, Norman, Lily. I know we don't normally do that with investigators in the box, but this one, since they're all the same deck building style and they're all different mashups of these different classes, I thought it would be kind of interesting to do that.
Okay, so hot take or asking for a hot take. What do you think of this deck building style?
Not a fan.
Yeah?
It's fun, but yeah, I would not be sad if we never go back to it. What about you?
I think it's very interesting, but I only like it depending on which classes.
Well, that's exactly it. Yeah, that's exactly it.
Yeah.
Like, if we had one where, like, can you imagine getting the inverse of Lily? Like, getting someone who starts Guardian and goes Mystic? Like, what the fuck are we even doing that? You know what I mean? Like, how would you even make that work? And then, so that's the thing. Like, I say that, I would not be sad if we never see this again. But at the same time, there's a lot of mileage that you can get from this deck building style.
Yeah.
Because of all the different combinations that you can mix and match between. So.
Yeah. The deck building style, though, I think the reason I'm okay with it also is that we have technology that we can use to build decks, like Arkham DB
Yeah.
and Arkham cards.
Yeah.
Right? Because like building one of these decks just on your table, just flipping through cards, I feel is just.
I mean, man, I built a Carolyn deck for Iron Man, so this all seems like easy peasy to me now.
Yeah.
Every time I look, there's always something I miss. Every time I build a deck for Carolyn, I'm always like, wait, what? Why?
Carolyn's a headache. Absolutely.
Oh my god.
Yep.
Make her Guardian 0 to 5. She can't take weapons. It doesn't matter. Just make her 5. Ugh.
Yeah, I mean, I mostly love this box.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of good stuff. A lot of good stuff.
And a lot of surprises. Like there is.
Yes.
I'd say Bob. Actually, the top 3 that we just talked about, Bob, Montre, and Daniela, were 3 that I was like, I can see how they'll be okay. And it's like, oh wait, no, wow, these are actually a lot better than I thought they were.
Yeah, totally.
So, Daniela especially, I think, was the biggest one for me. Because like, until you try her and like actually take lots of attacks and stuff like that, like if you have that nervousness and you're worried about soak and health and stuff like that, I feel like that held me back. And when I was just like, no, I'm going to just start tanking stuff, and I just have to have ways of canceling attacks or soaking them up or being very specific on what attack I'm taking and all that stuff, and get a handle on her deck building. Like, she was the one, I think, that had the biggest delta between where I thought she was and where she is.
Totally. I can see that, yeah. So, after 84 years, we're now on the other side of the player cards.
It's been 84
Holy cow.
years.
So thanks for tuning in to our amazing podcast, The Edge of the Earth Player Card Reviews.
Yeah.
Now the podcast is done. No, I'm kidding. Yeah. But now we can go into a little bit of tentacle time. Mm-hmm. Scott, what have you been doing?
Okay, so remember last time I was on here and there was that Magic the Gathering phone game, Spell Slingers, and I was like, I tried it. It's not great. And Maxine was on the show and she's like, wow, great review. And I'm like, yeah, I know. So then I started, like, I played a little more, and it's really good, like, when I'm at work and not on a call. It's like 5-minute games, maybe. It's basically Hearthstone, but Magic. Very, very similar. So then I started playing, I started getting good at it, and at one point I was 12th in the world. And now I play it every day. So, but it's just a really easy, like, oh, I've got 5 minutes to spare, right? Like,
right, yeah,
and just I want to move some things around and on a screen, and yeah, and you can do it completely free to play. I have not spent a dime on it, and I'm like have like 75% of the cards. Like, it's not.
Wow.
Yeah, it doesn't take much. There's only there's the core set, and they had like one expansion out, but it's not. Yeah.
So they're even more generous with you getting cards freely than Hearthstone.
Yes. Yeah.
Because Hearthstone, I remember it being, if you're not spending money, you can still get them decently, but it's a slow.
Yeah.
It's a slow go. It's like one pack of 5 cards every few days.
Yeah. No. Like, I get like 1 to 2 packs a day.
Nice.
Yeah. If you're doing all your quests and stuff like that.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's super fun. I grabbed Dune Imperium.
Right. Yeah.
And Ian and I have been talking about it. I've been playing it solo, and I bought it for solo, and it is absolutely fantastic. I had watched a ton of videos on it, and I've talked to many people about it, and like I've yet to hear. Oh no, there's one person recently, but before that person, I had yet to hear someone say, "Nah, not a great game." Like, everything was just accolades, and it was up for Spiel des Jahres award too.
Yeah.
I don't know who won that this year, but it was like,
I don't either.
It was nominated. It's one of the 3 that was nominated for the Spiel des Jahres, and I don't know. I love Dune. Like, I read all the books. The Frank Herbert one's not the stuff his son continued on.
Sure.
But Dune is also like one of my favorite settings or
universes.
It's so good. Like, my goodness, like, it is fantastic, and the books are amazing. I still haven't watched the movie because I want to wait for the second one to come out so I can
it's fine,
watch it all together. Yeah, so that, I mean, that taints my opinion a bit, or I'm
skews
biased. Skews it. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like anything Star Wars. Like I'll play any Star Wars game. Just put it
Sure.
in front of me because it's Star Wars. But same thing. Very similar to Dune.
Sure.
But yeah, Dune Imperium, super fun. If you need a good solo game, and you like kind of like, there's a bit of engine building, but it's also a bit of
Sure.
like deck building. It's also area management and worker placement.
Right.
Yeah.
How have you played it multiplayer?
I have
Or not
played
yet?
it 2-player.
Okay.
And that's also really good. So when you're
Nice.
playing solo, they have an AI deck
Sure.
that tells you where the two opponents go, and they act like a normal player with a few little things, obviously, that are different. But it feels like they're making intelligent decisions sometimes. Like it's
Right.
really, and the thing is too, like they're good at the game. Like it's not one of those. It's not one of those AIs that's just like, oh, I figured out how to beat it. Like no, like
Right.
I have lost games on easy. You know what I mean?
Interesting.
Like yeah. And then in 2-player, so in solo, you essentially have 2 AI players, and they compete
Right.
for victory points the same way as you do.
Yeah.
In 2-player, so if it was you and me playing, there's a third one, but all they do is
Sure.
block spots.
Oh,
they-
so it's the risk setup where there's a neutral party, but they don't advance. They just hold
They don't
stuff.
they don't collect. They just block because it's
Yeah.
worker placement, right? So they
Yeah.
just block stuff randomly, and they don't
Right.
collect points. So it's very like it's head to head with some little bit of
That's
stuff.
I like
running.
that interference. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
that's fun. Is this an original game or is this a revamp of an older rule set?
This is the original. This
Okay.
is an original. Sorry, because
Yep.
there's that other Dune board game. I think it's just called Dune.
Yeah.
That was super old, but it was like,
Yeah.
but it's also insanely
That
complicated.
they've revived recently, I
Yes,
think, or
yeah,
a few
they-
years ago they did.
Yeah, they basically did a reprint. And FFG, actually, the Twilight Imperium board game is basically... Or no, sorry. Not Twilight Imperium, but that universe, but they made like...
Imperious Rex or whatever it's called.
Yeah.
That little mini game or whatever, or sub game.
Yeah, so that one is basically the old Dune board game, but put in TI universe.
Gotcha.
And
Gotcha.
and
Okay.
altered, like they tweaked with
Yeah,
some
they
rules and stuff like
changed
that.
it. It's like the StarCraft to Forbidden Stars
Yeah.
setup that they did years ago.
Yeah.
Okay.
I want to get that old board game, or like even the reprint. But I just
Yeah.
I want it, but I know I'm never gonna play it because
Yeah,
you
because
need-
that one is multiplayer.
you need at least 3 people, and
Mm-hmm.
it is just complicated, man. Like it is like I would assume teaching it, like you're gonna need 2 hours to teach
Yeah.
it. You know what I mean? Like
I would
and,
imagine, yeah.
and everyone has different roles, and like everyone, how your turn works is different from everyone
Mm-hmm.
else. Like it's one of those things, right?
It's asymmetrical, which I love.
Yes.
Love asymmetrical design.
Yeah.
But yeah, that can make teaching it very, very difficult.
Yeah. And also like you have to have like a couple people who are, I'd say like the more hardcore gamers and dedicated gamers
Sure.
who are also going to play with you multiple times, because like to teach it once and then play
Yeah.
it and then like
Yeah, that's the hard thing about those really in-depth big board games that take a long time, is that like it's such a learning and this is probably what I ran into with Nemesis. Where, because I was so excited to play Nemesis, then we played it and we were all learning it, and it is, of modern board games, it's one of the most complex, most complicated that came out. And all it felt like to me was that, like, after 2.5 hours, it felt like, I'm like, there's so much going on. It really feels like when they were designing it, they just kept adding things,
yeah.
you know? And that didn't feel good in playing it. But now part of me is like, oh, I wonder if we did it again and I played with the same people so that we're all at least a little more familiar with it than we were when we started, you know, like if that would make any difference or not. Because boy, if everyone's going in blind, it can be, that first game is usually a shit show of any big game like that.
Yeah. That's something like, that's kind of a downside of some of these more complicated board games is like, I feel like the best way to play them or experience them is to have a bunch of players that play regularly, and
Yes.
you know what I mean? And so you can all just come to sit, like, you know, people have like Twilight Imperium groups, and it's like, you know, every fourth Saturday or whatever, like last Saturday of the month, you get together and you play a 10-hour game. But everyone knows the game, and like, so it flows and stuff like that. And so with these big games, like, I don't have people like that or the time usually. So yeah, I feel that way with Star Wars Rebellion as well.
Rebellion, yeah.
Because like I love that game, and it's not as complicated, but
Sure. But there's still a lot going on.
Well, and now like I've played it so much, and then like I'll teach people, but because I've played it so much, like I'm so much better, and then it's not a good experience, and
exactly.
Yeah, but it's one of my I mean,
I would say that's me with StarCraft, but I still lose at StarCraft. StarCraft is that is one of my all-time favorite board games, but it's the same thing where it's like there's so much going on, and I'm the only one who seems to like retain more than the basics, even though, you know, like of my gaming group. So yeah, God, Doom Imperium though, that's it's lower than $50 for price point, so I might have to pick that up one of these days.
It's really good.
It sounds a lot of fun.
And there's an expansion already out for it that is just like, it's one of those expansions, like, it's awesome. Like, if you can get them together. I got mine secondhand, like the two of them, the expansion of the game for like $70 or something. So
nice.
Last thing I'm going to say for technical time, I was talking to a user. I totally forget his username now. I feel bad, but he was asking about the movie Bringing Out the Dead, which is the Nicolas Cage paramedic movie, which among paramedics is widely considered the most realistic paramedic movie there is. Like,
interesting.
You want to see what paramedicing is? It's that, like, the burnout, the anger, the you know, like the calls they go on, like it is very accurate. And I kind of got this idea with him where I am going to set up a time where I am going to, there's ways you can all, like, people online can all watch the same movie at the same time and like chat about it.
Watch party.
Watch party. So I want to do a watch party with that movie, and then people can, like, if people are curious about paramedicing stuff, like, they can ask me questions afterwards, and I'll be like, oh yeah, like, I've totally done that exact call, you know what I mean? Like,
sure.
Yeah. And like,
that sounds like fun.
Yeah. Have you seen the movie?
I have not.
It's pretty good. I mean, well, yeah, I'm biased, but
well, of course.
Yeah.
But I mean, that experience sounds fun. Like, I sign me up for that. You know, whenever you do that, if I'm available, I'd love to join you.
And like and when I say like it's accurate, it's something that we show, like I have lent my copy out to probably at least 50 people at this point. If I ever have a student on my truck, I lend them a copy of it.
Sure.
Any new recruits or like or people coming on or whatever, I'm like, go home and watch this, because like this is it. Like, and also it's almost like a teaching tool where it's like, so Nicolas Cage is a burnt out paramedic who's just completely burnt out. It's like, this is what burnout looks like. So and we have a high rate of burnout in our career, right? Like in general, or our field. So it's like, here's what to look for. Like, it's a teaching tool in that way. It's so it's like the only Nicolas Cage movie I like, because I don't really like Nick Cage. So
yeah,
he's just, I don't know.
My wife and I tried watching the Five Nights at Freddy's style movie that he's in. We got like an hour and a half into it, and we're like, this isn't really doing it because it was so weird. And he doesn't have a single line of dialogue, at least in what we watched. He didn't have a single line of dialogue in the whole thing.
Wow.
So we're just, but yeah, anyway, yeah, he is when you watch a movie with him in it, especially nowadays, you're just watching it to watch him. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But yeah, anyway, no, that sounds like a lot of fun. That sounds like a very interesting movie, and I would love, like I said, I would love to be a part of that watch party when you do it, if I'm available.
Yeah. Sounds good. What has been grabbing you lately?
So, gosh, what have I been doing? I mean, we're still playing D&D every Tuesday night at 7 p.m. Central. We had a little bit of a hiatus there just due to scheduling conflicts. And then I had some shit going on at home that I had to take care of and deal with. So we missed a couple weeks there. But yeah, we still play every Tuesday night, 7 p.m. Central at twitch.tv/Nicholas Corey. But my wife and I have been watching this TV show, and people have asked, well, nobody's asked, but people will ask. Like, the first question when you bring up a new TV show is like, oh, where can I stream it? Where is it streaming on? Mm-hmm. I don't know where this one's streaming on because it was just added to our Roku. Like, Roku just decided, here's a new channel added to your Roku device.
Oh, what show?
And it's called Taskmaster. And I talked about it with you guys the other night, and I shared a clip of it in our Mythos Management channel. It is a British game show that is hosted by Greg Davies and Alex Horn. Greg Davies is a very well accomplished British stand-up comedian and actor, and each series runs, I think, 6 episodes, and they have so like the first season is 6 episodes, and that whole season is an ongoing competition between 5 other entertainers. Most of them are British stand-up comedians. There's some musical artists in there as well. But so they have the same 5 cast in the first 6 episodes, and each game they do tasks. Greg Davies gives them each a task that they have to accomplish, and then he rates how they do, and they earn points, and then by the end of the show, one of them will win some prizes, and by the end of the season, one of them will win a big gold trophy. So, but it's what makes it amazing is that the tasks are absurd and hilarious and dumb, and B, they're all entertainers, so they're all fun to watch. Like, they're all hilarious, and you get to watch them like try and work it out. So the clip that I shared, and I'll share it in live podcast chat here as well, but the clip that I shared is from the 2nd season, and the task, it's a simple task. There's this big, it's like it's bigger than that. It's like a 10-foot radius, red carpet, essentially, with a golf hole in the middle. And the task is, without touching the red, get this potato in the hole, fastest time wins. And so you get to watch how everybody worked through this. And so, like, they do that, and the video starts, like, this task starts where they explain that, and then Greg Davies is like, he's like, well, now, of course, these are very intelligent people. None of them would just go and throw the potato on there, because if they miss, then it's stuck in the middle. How are they going to get it back? Yeah. And then immediately that's what 2 of them do. Like, they just they throw it, and then they're like, oh, shit, I didn't think about this. So then they have to come up with a way to get the potato back without touching the red part. And anyway, it goes like, the way that some of them solve it is hilarious. This task specifically is such a trip to watch it go from start to finish. It's a 12-minute video, but it's totally worth it. Anyway, my wife and I have been obsessed with this show. It's like I said, it's so fun. It's so funny. And it's one of them we watched last night. The task was, you have to remove 4 articles of your clothing and spread them, like, place them in different spots, and the person who achieves the largest distance and greatest width between their articles of clothing wins. And the one guy who won, like, he was like, okay, Alex, because Alex is the personal assistant, so he's there for everything. He's like the judge, you know. Yeah. He's like, Alex, I'm gonna give you my hat and my jacket. You're gonna take a cab this direction for X amount of time, and then this direction for X amount of time. I'm going to take my socks and take another cab in the opposite direction. You know, it's that sort of stuff. So it's hilarious. It's really, really funny. I highly recommend it. And it's not like it's one of those that when work is done and I'm exhausted at the end of the day, like, you can just put it on and veg out in front of it. And it's a low intensity show, and what I get out of it, the amount of joy I get from watching these people blunder around these tasks, is very high. So I highly recommend it.
That sounds really funny. I'm gonna take a look.
I know for sure that it's on YouTube, because I pulled this clip when I searched it on YouTube. I pulled this clip from there, but then there's also full episodes on there, and I think they have playlists of the seasons. But like I said, Roku just gave us the Taskmaster app.
Right.
So I don't know if it's on, like, BritBox streaming or what, you know what I mean? But I would recommend that you guys hunt it down. But yeah, that's my tentacle time. And also, as always, check out my Astral Tides RPG. I got those posted on DriveThruRPG. You can get the PDFs on there. I'd really appreciate it. The quick start guide is pay what you want, so you can get it for free if you like, and then if you like what you read, you can pick up everything else. So, but that's it for the show. Thanks so much for joining us for episode 132 of Mythos Busters. As always, once again, you can give us a call, 203-493-MYTH, 203-493-6984, and leave us a voicemails for something for us to discuss on future episodes. Looks like our schedule will be opening up a little bit now that Edge of the Earth player card reviews are done. We still have the scenarios, but we'll always have time for voicemails if you send them. And then you can email us at mythosbusterspod@gmail.com. Check us out on YouTube and Twitch. We also have Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, so check those out too. And thanks so much for listening, and we'll catch you all on the next episode 133.